All right, starting with a 30 for 30. This is an unplanned video, but it's something that I have to correct. You can see here on the screen, the Chinese Communist Party. On my last video, there were a couple comments of people saying China's not communist, and China is communist. Okay. What people don't realize sometimes is that they unintentionally are spreading propaganda from the CCP. Let me ask you a question here. Do you really think that China created something so amazing, like their own political structure? Or do you think that, of course, they just copied communism? Safe to say they just copied communism. That's why they're literally, as you can see on the screen, the Communist Party of China. They're called the Communist Party of China because they're communist, right? Let me ask you another question. What is something that China tries to do when something gets a bad reputation? They try to redefine the way that people think about it. And the way that they do that is by rewording what people call it. Taiwan is not its own country. It's a province of China, right? The Uyghur prisons are not prisons. They're re-education camps. They're not they're not being mean to these Uyghur people. They're re-educating them. They're teaching them the ways of being Chinese. This is the same thing. They're not communists. They're socialists with Chinese characteristics. No, it's bullshit. They are communist through and through. They're communist, and I'm going to explain why. But for starters, I wanted to say that the propaganda that came out for them to say that was years ago when it seemed like maybe China was going to open up, when they started getting free markets and stuff like that and more private industry, that they were becoming more capitalist. People were saying that, right? They were saying, oh man, they're probably more capitalist than America. I remember those videos, and some of those people with channels much like mine but are much larger were saying those things at one time, right? That's how that became popular. Because they were saying those things, that China was far more capitalist than America. They have billionaires. They've opened up. China's not even communist. But they are. And the worst part is that they know it. The Chinese Communist Party knows, right, that they're still communist. They just don't want you saying it out loud because the word communism is poison. People hear it and they think of poverty, starvation, gulag, censorship, and failure. But isn't that what China is today? Isn't China, isn't that what it is today, right? Aren't they still full of censorship? Isn't there economic failure? Isn't there poverty? Isn't there starvation? Doesn't it still exist? Of course it exists, because communism still exists in China. So instead of fixing the system, like I mentioned, what did they do? They rebranded it. They said this isn't communism, it's socialism. Like I said, with Chinese characteristics. Whatever that means, right? It's just lipstick on a pig. A rotten ideology. A nicer suit. It's the same top-down control. The same mass censorship. The same destruction of individual rights. Just now it's wrapped in high-speed rail and TikTok. You still have one-party rule with no real elections. That is communism. There's no political opposition. That's communism. There's no checks and balances. That's communism. Xi Jinping was crowned the supreme leader. Again, right? and rewrote the rules so that he could rule for life, right? So that's authoritarianism, right? Not communism. But what just recently happened? We find out that even Xi Jinping isn't safe, that he's been getting pushed back. Factions within the party are closing in, and he's been forced to walk back decisions, to remove loyalists, and even surrender grounds to rival camps. That's how you know this isn't just a dictatorship. This isn't just one man's tyranny. If it were, he wouldn't be losing control. But this is communism. A system that consumes everyone, even its own leader. The party matters more than the person. The ideology matters more than the people, right? The Chinese Communist Party is like a hive. If a drone gets too big and the hive cuts it down, that's what they've done for decades. And that's what they're doing now. Xi Jinping isn't the dictator that some people think he is. He wants to be, but he's not. He's just the face of a machine, and the machine is built on pure, uncut communism. People say, well, but China has billionaires. Of course they do. And if you step out of line, ask Jack Ma. One comment criticizing the state, all that money doesn't save you. You get humbled real quick. You get replaced. You get washed. You get disappeared. And like every major figure in China, he knows the rule. You don't outshine the party, okay? Same thing for Jackie Chan. Whenever Jackie Chan's son got in trouble, what happened? He apologized. He had to get his son out of trouble. Every major industry in China is still anxious to the state. Banks, energy, telecom, transportation, all dominated by state-owned enterprises. Do you know what that is? I'm going to say it again. You're going to hear it a lot in this video. It's called communism. And even the so-called private companies that are required to have, these Communist Party cells embedded in them, Tencent, all these companies, yeah, they've got Communist Party cells in them, okay? Do you know why? Because, again, I'm going to say it again, communism. The state tells them what to build, who to serve, and when to shut up, okay? It's not free enterprise. It's not market competition. It's controlled capitalism with a red flag overhead, okay? That's why people are so worried about TikTok right now, right? People aren't worried about, kids getting too addicted to TikTok. They're addicted. They're worried about the simple fact that they know that at the end of the day, the Chinese Communist Party controls TikTok. And if they demand that information be handed over, the information will be handed over. Why is that? That's right, folks. Communism. And let's talk about surveillance. You step outside in China, there's a camera on every street corner. AI facial recognition tracks everywhere you move. The social credit system assigns a score to behavior, where you shop at, what you post, who your friends are. That determines your life. Want to buy a train ticket, rent an apartment, get a loan? Better not have spoken against the party. Say the wrong thing, you get blacklisted. Your face goes into a database. Your name gets locked out of services. That's not an exaggeration. That's a documented fact. This isn't some sci-fi fantasy. This is communism, updated with modern-day technology. Stalin dreamed of this kind of control, and Xi Jinping actually has it. And it doesn't stop with surveillance. The censorship is relentless. There's no YouTube, there's no Twitter, there's no Facebook, there's no Google. And the Great Firewall keeps the truth out and propaganda in. And even within China's borders, everything you say, everything you search, everything you type, it's monitored. Do you know why? Because it's communism. And saying that it's not is crazy. Try talking about Taiwan, or Tibet, or the Tiananmen Square accident. You disappear. You'll be silenced, or worse, you'll be paraded on television to apologize for your wrong thinking. Just like the old Soviet Union, but now with 4K cameras and biometric tracking. Why? Well, I don't know, because it's communist, right? And for people saying that China, modernized, how modern is it that you still can't own land under your own feet? Do you know what that is when you can't own the land under your feet? Do you see where I'm going with this, folks? It's called communism. All the land belongs to the state, every square inch. You don't own your house, you lease it. You don't own your farm, you rent it. And if the government decides they want it back, it's gone. Bulldozed, reassigned. You have no legal recourse. How's that capitalism? How's that freedom? How's that socialism? It's not. That's communism. And yes, they still use 5-year plans. Have you heard about the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan? Do you know where they got that from? I'm going to tell you. Communism. The same old Soviet-style central planning. They set national goals, production quotas, and investment targets. They pour trillions into fake projects to prop up fake GDP numbers. Whole ghost cities built for no one, just to keep the numbers green. Just doesn't stop. I got a million reasons that I could go on. The Evergrande collapse, no problem. Patch it with lies and cash injection. Let the party spin it. Keep the illusion alive. It's not economics. It's theater. Theater and what? In the story called communism. And in the indoctrination, it starts young, from kindergarten. Kids are taught that Xi Jinping thought, the thing about Xi Jinping, it's not so much about math or science. It's not about logic or loyalty. It's about obedience. Party first thinking. By the time they're teenagers, they learn that the West is evil, that democracy is dangerous, and that their party is their family. It's not education. It's ideological grooming. Okay? Religion? You can forget it. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all heavily monitored. Crosses are torn down. Mosques are surveilled. Bibles are rewritten. Uyghurs are locked in re-education camps. Because why? Because communism. Communism has to control belief. No higher authority can exist outside the party. Not your God, not your conscience, not your own mind. And now they want to convince the world that they've evolved and that they've got something new that they've created, a hybrid model. The next generation socialism with Chinese characteristics. What does that mean? Nothing. It's a slogan. It's a shield to cover up the fact that it's the exact same Marxist-Leninist dogma that ruined the USSR. They've just slapped a Made in China sticker on it and hoped that no one would notice. And they've told it to a few people and it's been copied. And now you've got people that are going around saying, well, China's not communist. Okay, but some of us do notice. The more you dig, the more obvious it becomes. The censorship, the surveillance, the one-party rule, the control of capital, the lack of rights, the propaganda, the indoctrination, the punishment of dissent. It's not a free society. It's not a new model. That's communism. And no matter how many times shopping malls they build, no matter how many of those stupid things they make, no matter how many influencers they pay to tell you otherwise, the truth is very simple. Okay? China didn't abandon you-know-what. Communism. They perfected it, right? They made it better. And you know what? They're trying to tell you that it's not communism, but it is. So let me know when you're ready to accept the fact here that communism is here. That China's communism, it's always been communist. And this whole bullshit about how they're not is a joke. 30 for 30. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out the Patreon page. If you haven't seen all of the 30 for 30, there is a playlist there. Watch them. Let them run in a loop if you can. It helps my watch time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a good day. And don't be a communist.